Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. Start the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome in to another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show. Proud member of Underdog and the Underdog Fantasy family. Back with you guys tonight for another show. Marty Party, Doc, Elsie, and our special guest who we'll get to in just a second. Marty Party, we just finished another Underdog draft. Drafted together on the same team this week. Do you feel good about the squad?
I do. I feel great about the squad, but more importantly, like those are a lot of fun to do. Like every single one I do, I have more and more and more fun. So it's a good way to change it up from your standard roto or head-to-head, points or whatever it is. It's a completely different ball game there.
30-second clock. We did a 6-team draft today, and different type of ways of roster construction and picking guys, getting exposure to different players. It definitely is a good time, and we love doing those every week. Doc is also part of those drafts, but Doc is also here wearing his 49ers gear, maybe in spirit with our special guest here. Doc, are you going to bring the winning tonight because you're wearing a losing jersey?
I can't even say anything. Your team won the Super Bowl. That was good, David. I'm impressed. You're never this witty.
I know. I don't expect too much of it. LC with his baseball hat, his normal Triple Play Fantasy Baseball hat on tonight. He is ready to go with the smile on his face. LC, what's going on?
I'm stoked to talk about Outfielders. I don't have a football jersey on. I put my Brian Urlacher jersey on, and I'm wearing a UConn Huskies shirt now.
That's so random. But
go Huskies! But I don't have a football jersey on. I feel left out.
It's okay.
Yeah, UConn. UConn's awesome.
Of course, for those that are watching on YouTube, you can see our special guest. But for those listening to the podcast version, we welcome in a man that I would say is like the encyclopedia when it comes to sports knowledge. Why? Because he stumped the Schwab on an episode of Stump the Schwab. He is an MLB and NFL podcast host and columnist at RotoWire, an avid NFBC and NFFC player. He also is a hardcore fan of the A's, Warriors, Niners, and Cardinals. I did tell him that we would allow the floor to be open to express the displeasure with the 49ers recently, although before the show, he talked about the glory days before Doc was born when they were winning Super Bowls. You guys know who I'm talking about. It is the one and only Scott Jenstad. How's it going, man?
I'm good. I appreciate you guys having me on. I always love coming and talking with you guys. And I don't have too much displeasure. When you lose your quarterback on the first drive of the game, you just kind of chalk it up to it's just not meant to be. So I'm all right with it. The Niners season didn't end exactly how I wanted to, but when you make the NFC Championship game all the time, it happens.
That's so optimistic of you. I was just expecting us to lose. It's just like rip my heart out once I'm close again. I don't think I'll ever know what it's like for a 49ers fan to win a Super Bowl and be happy.
Yeah, I tell people they have like 6 losses in a row that are all like stomach punch, awful losses in a row that in like big either Super Bowl or championship games. So it's been a rough stretch. But as I was saying before we got here, I'm a lot older than you, so I got to appreciate the 80s Super Bowls. So it's hard for me to complain too much when we have a Lions guy in the podcast here.
Scott, I just have one question. Have you cried during your time of being a 49ers fan, either from good or bad?
Yeah, I think the one that really got me was the Ravens Super Bowl because the game was over. They were dead once Jacoby Jones returned that kick. And then all of a sudden you come all the way back. I had a big party at my house. Everybody's going crazy. And to get all the way back and get to the top of the hill and just fall backwards. I think that was the most painful one for me.
More than the Chiefs one? I feel like you guys had the 10-point lead.
I never thought they were winning that game.
That's the game I might have cried because I had to watch it with David.
Oh, that's hard. They got the interception on Mahomes. I thought it was a chance, but I always thought that Kansas City was going to score a couple times late. But that Ravens Super Bowl, just the way the emotion built up, I think was the one that really struck me the worst.
Talking from someone that lives in Baltimore, that was tough.
Yeah, that's tough too. And to lose to freaking Joe Flacco is just brutal.
one of the best postseason runs of all time. Got him a life-changing contract just from that one Super Bowl run for sure. But of course, obviously you guys are tuning in to talk baseball. That's why you're here. But we have Scott, who is one of the best fantasy baseball minds out there, competes high stakes, talks about it on RotoWire all the time. Before we get into the topic tonight, Scott, are you optimistic that your Oakland A's could do anything this year?
I am. I have zero optimism about that absolutely utter trash franchise right now. I am disgusted. I'm disgusted by the ownership. I'm disgusted by the team. I'm pretty much disgusted by all of it. I've been a hardcore A's fan my whole life, and I'm on the verge. If they move to Vegas, I think I'm out.
I've never seen a team in baseball tank as bad as the A's have. It's just they're not. I mean, they're not even keeping anybody that's talented on that team, and they're just giving rid of anybody.
They don't care. They doubled season ticket prices last year too. They actively don't want people to come to games so they can prove a point. It's a horrible setup. The owner's garbage.
Well, Scott, I want to ask you really quick. What team are you rooting for? If the A's
it's a really good question. Jeff and I talked about that a little bit. I don't really have an easy option. I can't. I live in LA. I can't root for either of the LA teams. The Angels are an A's rival, and I can't root the Dodgers. That's too easy. Padres would have been a good option, but like they're kind of like spending a bunch of money and good now. So I'm kind of a free agent. If they move to Vegas, I might be a free agent. I don't know where I'll go. It'll probably be just fantasy players at that point. But I don't know. It'll be tough. I can't do the Giants for sure. So I don't really have any options.
Who's your favorite player that has not played for the A's?
My favorite player who's never played for the A's is probably Nelson Cruz.
Oh, he's played so many teams.
My first NFBC main event win, I took Cruz at his min pick, and he had a huge year. And ended up meeting him a couple years later, and kind of told the story about how he won for me. He was a really nice guy, really soft spoken. I have a cool picture of my wife and Cruz and I. So that's probably my favorite player that never played in the A's.
I was gonna say he would have been an easy if he had played for like one or two teams, be like whoever his team is. But Nelson Cruz has played with too many for that to be the case.
Yeah.
Albert, what's going on, my man? Thanks for tuning in. And Vinny recommends you pick the Arizona Diamondbacks. So,
that's not a bad thing. I had a friend who used to pitch for them, so that could work out.
All right. Well, tonight is our final episode of our outfield preview, our outfield part 3 preview. We're gonna have a lot of sleepers here, a lot of players, obviously, in this range that we're talking about tonight. You can get anyone you want because they're towards the end of your drafts. You can get a lot of exposure to these players. Some of them could be league winners. You never know, depending in the right situation. So we're going to kick things off with Scott. And for the range tonight, it's the last 2 weeks of ADP over on the NFBC, about 59 drafts over this time. And we are in the first range looking at outfielder 61 to outfielder 70. These picks range anywhere from 256 overall to about 298 overall. So again, this is where you're getting in that point in your draft here. Scott, who is the player you find drafting the most in this range?
Sometimes synergy really works out well because I'm actually going to pick an A's player, believe it or not. I'm going to go Esteury Ruiz coming over in a trade. Got a chance to play center field every day when the GM David Force was talking about the fact that he might play center field a bunch. They don't like Christian Pache. He can play defense, but he's out of options. I don't know what's going to happen there. He cannot hit, but you look at Ruiz, and I know everybody's been talking about him, but you look at the numbers, 85 stolen bases last year in 114 games. That is an absurd number. Hit 332 last year in the minors too. It's not like it came fully empty, and he hit a few home runs too. I think he had you look at all 3 levels, he had 16 home runs. So it's not like a Billy Hamilton, no pop kind of thing. He's interesting. I think he's going to be a big helium guy in March. If he's looking like he's playing, he steals a couple bags in spring training. I think everybody, if you need a bailout stolen base guy in the middle rounds, I think it's going to be Ruiz. But I'm pretty intrigued. 98th percentile sprint speed. He can absolutely fly. I think he's if you're behind in stolen bases, he's the guy to go to in this range of 60 to 70.
And the fact that they don't really have a lot of people to push him if he struggles. I mean, he was pretty much the crown jewel of the Matt Olson trade, or not the Matt Olson trade. I'm trying to remember where he it was the Milwaukee Brewers. Who was the trade for?
It was a 3-way trade with Murphy and
the Murphy trade.
William Contreras.
That's what it was, the Sean Murphy trade. Yeah. That was the crown jewel back for them.
Well, don't forget we got Manny Pena in that trade, so that's really the linchpin of the whole deal. When you can get a 56-year-old catcher, it really changes your franchise.
Oh man, I feel so bad for the Oakland A's fans, man. I feel, but yeah, it's not crazy to say he could lead the league in stolen bases if he even hits somewhat decently this year. Like, just if his bat is okay, he'll play every day. He could steal a ton of bases with the new rules, especially. So I like taking a shot on him, especially in roto leagues. If you're playing in a points league, Scott, would you draft him at all?
Probably not. I don't think I mentioned the pop from last year. I don't think that's really going to translate, but yeah, points league. I'd have a different pick in this range, but a roto league, I go Ruiz. You want a points pick too, or you want someone else to go?
Yeah, why don't we double dip? Give us a points league for this.
Yeah, if I'm going points pick here, I'm going to go a couple spots down. I go Jorge Soler, big hard hit guy. Should play a decent amount now in Miami. I know last year was rough. The strikeouts were up to 29%, but 23% the year before, had 27 home runs. You don't worry much about batting average at a points league. You just want power. And I mean, he has that. You're talking a 12% barrel rate last year, even in the down year. So if I'm going points league, I'm going Soler, and I'd be pretty happy with it this price.
Yeah, I like that pick. Hopefully he bounces back this year. Obviously, you saw in a healthy season the year before. They hit like 48 home runs during that time. So definitely someone that can give you a lot of power at this point in the draft, especially where power has become so scarce, it seems like. So good pick with Soler. LC, you definitely look a lot prettier now with your camera off. So why don't you go ahead and you tell us. You like the new Chicago Cub Trey Mancini in this range.
So, yes, I do like Trey Mancini. I think plate appearance projections for him a little bit low. I think he's going to be playing pretty much every day for the Cubs at DH or first base. If Eric Hosmer gets a ton of plate appearances, I'm going to punch Jed Hoyer in the face. I really am. I'd rather have Mancini man in first base and DH over there. And I think he's going to bounce back a little bit from his downtime in Houston, where he hit only 176 over 165 at bats. His power was down last season. Part of that was Baltimore. But I expect a slight power from his season last year, the Baltimore stint, and some batting average rebound. I think he's going to have a nice little bounce back season. He was hitting almost 270 in Baltimore before going and having that terrible run in Houston. So I think he's going to be pretty good for the Cubs, and I think he's going to get a lot of plate appearances.
Are you worried about the emergence of Matt Mervis and potentially taking away some at bats with him if Matt Mervis pushes the envelope a little bit? And LC has no comeback for that. So good.
I'm not worried. I think Mervis would probably take more from Hosmer.
You're so delayed.
His points are short, sweet and to the point.
Yeah. I think it's just this thing's cutting off. So we'll move on.
We might need a 5-second count on him.
This is the best thing that happened to LC to limit his talking is bad Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we put him in this is his punishment. Doc, you're also going a homer pick here because living in Baltimore, see the Orioles a lot. You like what Austin Hayes brings to the table at this range.
I do. And Austin Hayes isn't somebody that's sexy from his player profile or when you look at his actual picture. But he's somebody that I think is going to be a steady contributor. He's increased the amount of games. He's played 33 in the shortened season, but 131 and 145. And the O's don't have much outfield depth. They've listed him, Mullins, who has been rumored to platoon, Santander, who is in trade rumors, and then Kyle Stowers, who is their fourth outfielder but starting DH. And he had a drop in home runs last year, 22-16. I think that was expected with the ballpark. I think the O's players are going to have a now kind of a better idea. They're looking to hit doubles or sell out for power. So I see a little bit of uptick in counting stats. And the O's probably have the best hitting lineup they've had in years. And I've talked about this throughout the season. Like, it's going to be really exciting just going to the game. I don't think the starting pitching is going to be good, but I think there's going to be plenty of counting stat opportunities. And you're getting him in the 61 to 70 range, good average, good counting stats, good home runs, but won't excel in any category.
Right around pick 279. Basically, you're calling him the jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about last week how much I believe it was myself, and I'm pretty sure that Sporer also picked this player. It might have even been a third person that picked it too. We talked about we were out on Anthony Santander, who also goes not too much higher ahead of him. And we just all said that we were like, especially the fact that he's horrible defensively. If the bat isn't anything close, he could lose a lot of playing time. So they need Austin Hayes to play the outfield, get ample at bats. So I like the pick there, Doc. Marty Party, your pick in this range, you decided to go with another, again, you guys all picking players for your favorite teams here. You think the Austin Meadows bounce back is real?
I do. And I mean, look, here's the thing. So ADP is 260, roster resource has him leading off, and there's no competition behind him. He's going to play every single day without a doubt. They re-signed him up for this year. The ballpark is a little bit smaller, which should help him with some power numbers, maybe 1 or 2 more home runs over that right center wall. Bad X projections have him for 517 plate appearances, batting 242, 15 home runs, and 5 stolen bases. So if I'm this deep in outfield, if I can still get somebody that maybe has 20 plus, or 20 home run upside, 5 to 8 stolen bases somewhere in there, maybe even more with the new bags, I like where he's currently at. I'm buying in at his current ADP. Last year was a mess for Meadows. I mean, he dealt with several injuries, mental health issues, you name it, but he's still only 27 years old. The year before, he hit 27 home runs, and the Tigers have completely redid their development team from hitting. So he's going to be with a brand new coaching staff, hopefully a brand new slate for him. He's healthy physically, mentally, and where he's at, roster resource has him, like I said, leading off. I'm buying into it.
Now, Scott, you got to hear everybody talk about their favorite team and players on their favorite teams. Is there any of the ones that were said that you disagree with?
It's funny. I was hoping someone was going to say Meadows because I have no idea what to figure out here. Like, are they going to have a ceremony in Detroit when he hits his first Tigers home run? Because he still doesn't have one.
I know.
It's insane. He had no home runs and no steals last year. It seems impossible. But then you look a year back and, like Marty said, 27-106. Like, if you get that at this price, you get 2/3 of that at this price. It's a giant steal. So I'm fascinated by Meadows. One of those guys that in drafts I cannot figure out yet. I'm hoping it works. Marty mentioned the mental health issues. You got to just root for the guy. Like, he was such a huge prospect, and then when he went to the Rays, he mashed. He's one of the more fascinating guys in drafts because if he's anywhere near what he was, he's a steal here.
Marty, where does the Bad X have him for stolen bases?
5.
Okay, that's fair. I remember he sprained both ankles last year. He did something that he hurt both legs.
He sprained both ankles. He had vertigo, right? Then obviously the mental health stuff. I mean, it was everything last year.
That's a bingo card of injuries right there.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Does anybody have an Oscar Colas take in this range? Because I have no idea on him either. I can't really figure that one out. Yeah, I noticed he was in this range too.
Scott, you're a professional. You teased it out there right as I was about to.
I'm not supposed to be asking the questions on this one, right?
So Oscar Colas is my pick. And
nice.
Spoiler alert, I did put a $25 bet on Oscar Colas winning American League Rookie of the Year at plus 1,700 odds.
Somewhere Greg Dortch is celebrating.
Yeah.
Sky Moore too.
Yeah, Sky Moore too.
Seriously, every wide receiver 4 in a primetime game, I assume Mendy made like 10 grand on it.
I wish that baseball. I'm going to hopefully make some money with baseball. I don't know if anything close to like
Dude,
that.
You have to bet on obscure pitchers throwing no hitters.
Yeah, something like that.
I keep rooting for Ray McLeod to score a touchdown just so you win a bunch of money.
Yeah. He did. I think he had I actually bet on him one game to get a touchdown in the yardage. But Oscar Colas, so last year, 314, 371, 524 slash line, 23 home runs, 24 doubles, 79 RBIs, and 81 runs across 3 different levels of minor league ball last year. He did only have 31 at-bats for AAA, and in those 31 at-bats, he had 387, 424, 645. And he looks the part. I mean, he had a 470-foot bomb in AA last year too. Like, he's one of those guys that just is physically, he looks the part. Obviously, the numbers, he looks the part. And we saw Michael Harris last year basically go from AA to producing very well in the big leagues. So I know he got the 31 at bats, but pretty much not too much time in AAA. You look at the fact that the White Sox, who they were going to be trotting out there, Eloy Jimenez is not going to be in the outfield anymore. He's going to be DHing. Gavin Sheets is another option, but he's horrible defensively and a bat-first player, and he's not even a guaranteed thing with his bat. The other options they have coming into camp this year are Billy Hamilton, Jake Marisnick, Victor Reyes, and Lori Garcia. So every article I've been reading is they're going into spring training saying it's Oscar Colas' job to lose. You combine that with the fact that he's basically been doing personal workouts with Luis Robert. He's also working with the White Sox Major League Field Coordinator Mike Tozar and hitting coach Jose Castro. He's doing all the right things. And he changed his approach last year when he said he went from thinking just to hit home runs to hitting the ball all over the field. So everything I'm reading and everything about Oscar Colas has me really excited. If he gets the opening right field job to start the season next year, everybody's going to be in on him and drafting him at a much higher price. It's because of the uncertainty that he's going to start the year is why I think he's so low. He's an electric player, and I'm really excited to draft him in as many leagues as I can.
You said he was working out with Luis Robert?
Yes.
That seems like a bad thing, though, right? Like Robert gets injured all the time.
Well, when Robert's on the field, he's electric too.
It's true. True that.
Guy comes back on with no camera and dropping bombs.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't even know you came back on camera. I was reading my notes, and then you just go and do that, LC. But yeah, I think Oscar Colas, I mean, we're talking about draft price here, and he's going as the 69th outfielder right before pick 300.
Nice.
I mean, it's nice spot to be taken there.
Nice.
All right.
Nice positional ranking.
Now I know what you're talking about, Doc. It's a PG show. So let's go into then the next range here, Scott. The favorites 71 to 80. This range, I don't think has as many players I like personally. I have more of a hard time trying to find players I really want to advocate for. There was one I kind of liked here. I'm interested to see if you go the same route. Who do you like in this range?
Kind of like, this is an interesting group. There's some possible breakout guys in here, but I'm going to go with someone that I've just kind of been a sucker for. I love the profile, but he just hasn't made it because of injury. The wrist has been an issue, but Alex Kirilloff in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he can hit. And at this price, his ADP is like 331, outfielder 79. I think it's a price where it's worth the risk. If he gets hurt again in the first month, you just drop him. It's easy. There's really no loss here. But I mean, he mashed in AAA last year. He had 10 home runs and 157 plate appearances. He killed that there. In 2021, he was eight home runs and 231 plate appearances. When he was up with the Twins last year, only 3 homers, but 45% hard hit rate, 44% hard hit rate in 2021 when he had a few more at bats with the Twins. I just think he can hit, and more than anything, first base is just wide ass open in Minnesota. There's nobody really that's going to take his job if he stays healthy. I mean, the wrist is a huge risk. It's big. But I think he's at a price where, like I said, if he gets hurt, it's okay. And you just drop him and there's no real loss. You're going to drop some of the guys in this range anyway. But I think Kirilloff in this range has legit upside to really, really hit well. Maybe be a, 20 home run guy and hit with a pretty good average. And at this point in the draft, I think that's going to be really nice.
Does the wrist concern you? I know he got wrist surgery this offseason to basically shorten or like shave off some of the bone in his wrist to try to prevent these injuries from going forward. But I've already read that he's already having some problems with it. And it's not something that's necessarily going to take him out from starting opening day. But when I just see certain things like the wrist stuff still not being solved, does that scare you all even at this price, or is it worth it to you still?
Scares the heck out of me. If he were any more expensive, I would probably be off it because of that. But at pick 331, maybe he hits for 2 months and then gets hurt. I can deal with that. So I think the price is a big factor here. I think he's a really good hitter, but I think there's a definite concern. This wrist is never just impacts his career forever.
And you're just like many others too, in the sense of like, I love Alex Kirilloff, and I know a lot of people like him as well. It's always been that wrist. And like, if the wrist holds up, you're getting an incredible bargain here. So if you take the chance and it pays off, it's going to pay off in a big way. As Scott mentioned, he hits the ball extremely hard and should be a great value if he stays on the field this year.
David, you should donate your wrist to Alex Kirilloff.
No, will not be donating my wrist to a player playing for my team that does nothing every single year.
Okay.
All right, next pick. Let's go to you, Marty Party, and let's talk about in the 71 to 80 range. We have the same player here. And to be honest with you, this was the one we both, I felt like, was kind of the slam dunk pick here in Chris Taylor.
Yeah, and there's nothing sexy about it. It's just I like the second base outfield eligibility. Still playing for the Dodgers. He has the ability to hit 15 to 20 home runs, steal you somewhere between 5 to 10 bags. The Dodgers beat writer said he's going to play as much as possible. They're going to move him around since they don't have the depth that they once had. And his projections have him for 15 home runs, 10 stolen bases, and batting around 240. I mean, it could be a lot worse. And more than likely, you're probably going to use him as your middle infielder. But outfield gets shallow. So if you can move him to the outfield, if there's an injury that pops up, I like the versatility there.
Yeah, and just one thing to add, you pretty much touched on it. He's going to be in the outfield mix in multiple spots, losing Cody Bellinger, Justin Turner, Trey Turner, and Joey Gallo. There's a lot less quantity of players like they've been having over the most recent years. They need him to play, and he played over 1,300 career innings in center field, 75 last season, 118 games last season. So he is playing consistently over 100 plus games. His versatility will keep him in the lineup. And that's where I think it becomes a really good value, because you get someone that's going to be playing every day for the Dodgers.
This is my guy too. Can I just pile on?
Was it Chris Taylor? Did you? I didn't even notice that. Yeah,
you know what, David? When you said I don't like this range, and I saw this range, the first thought that came into my mind is like, it's like the question of which of your exes would you want to date, and it's none of them. You don't like any guys in this range, but if you had to pick one, Chris Taylor is the one to go. It's only 30.
You really wouldn't want to date any of your exes?
No.
All right.
Eric's exes. If you see him.
Would you want to date any of your exes?
I don't know. Might be up to it.
Oh, this is getting deep.
I need a late night pod to really dive into this.
I always joke with my wife. I call my first ex my true love of my life, and she gets really mad. We joke about that. So I'm making the same joke.
Scott, you have an awesome wife, because I think if I said that to my wife, I think I'd be sleeping on the couch.
Yeah, we have a good time with that one.
Oh my god!
So Eric, this is the one X you would come back to.
I guess this is the one that I would. Chris Taylor. Oh, he's only 32 years old. You guys pretty much said everything, but I think of him as more of a speed guy. Last year's sprint speed was in the 83rd percentile, but hitting the max EV was 44th, average EV the 20th. Like, he might be a guy that you look at to get you some later steals and that versatility rather than getting some power.
Yeah, Chris Taylor, definitely an appealing pick going after pick 300. I want to double check Art. I don't think, you didn't have him. Did anybody like Manuel Margot here? He was kind of the other one I was deciding between.
It's the same thing every year. A good 2-week stretch where he hits 310 and steals like 6 bags, and then has a hamstring injury and goes on the IR.
He's like if he plays and he's healthy, he could be a 2020 guy.
Once again, it's same thing, David. It's same thing.
So my other guy here, and I'm surprised nobody took him. Where are you guys with Jared Kelenic these days?
I'm out.
Out?
I saw somebody tweeted it. I think it was today. I forgot who tweeted it, but they said that he overhauled his entire mechanics this offseason, talked to people in his inner circle or something. Yeah,
it was a weird quote too. Is like he keeps notebooks of like all the notes he's taking on his new swing. It was a really strange quote. It made me less interested. Actually, it made me feel weird about him.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I mean, you look at the strikeouts are the huge issue in the majors, but like he doesn't do that. He didn't do that in AAA the last 2 years. So it's so strange that 28 and 34% strikeout rate, but you look at AAA and it's 15% and 21%. It's just weird. Like, it's hard for me to get my arms around the fact that Jared Kelenic's a quad A player, but he profiles like that. If it wasn't for the pedigree, I wonder where we'd all be with this. But I don't know. I'm still hanging on a little bit in this range.
Does anybody think it's a mental thing more than anything at this point?
It's probably big mental.
At this point, the pedigree and the expectations and just how bad he's been struggling, that like it's just a certain thing you get to the plate, you have no confidence and you're overthinking every single. I mean, I feel like he's changed his swing like 2 or 3 times already.
He's still only 23 years old.
It's crazy, right?
He could suck for like another year and still 25, 26, 27, 28. He could possibly still be trying to get there. So
Justin Ackley 2.0.
Oh God!
But doesn't Ackley at least had one good season?
Ackley never got there. Yeah.
Well, but here's my thing: is the Mariners traded for Jesse Winker last offseason, traded for Teoscar this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to think that shows that they're not as confident as Kelenic.
Yeah, I mean, he's at this point right now.
They can't take any chances. They're ready to go right now.
Yeah.
Right now, they have him as the best case scenario is platooning, a strong side of a platoon. He's not even a guaranteed full-time starter at this point.
Who does he platoon with though? Like Dylan Moore? Is that who he platoons with?
It was
Because Dylan Moore sucks.
Dylan Moore just signed like a 4-year extension though.
He's bad.
They like him. They use him like the Dodgers use Chris Taylor. They put him all over the place.
I think they're going to give Kelenic a pretty good run to start the year. I think he's got like 6 to 8 weeks to hit, and if he doesn't, maybe they'll figure it out. But I think he's got a good run to start. But I don't know. It's been so ugly. It's been so bad. He's a fascinating guy.
Yeah, he is. LC, real quick, we'll get to your guy here to close this part out. You like Jake Fraley because I remember hearing you on the On the Wire podcast. You talked about that you liked Will Myers the best in terms of what you expect, but Will Myers' draft price has gotten so out of control that now Jake Fraley is kind of the nice option you can get, and you're scooping up more of him now.
Yeah, it was an interesting question because the Reds have a lot of kind of retries on their roster. Fraley's one, Myers is one. You can also call Chad Pinder another, and there's another that's not coming to my head right now that they brought in for a second chance. Fraley, though, last season was hitting fourth down the stretch for the Reds, had a fantastic second half for them, and I think his power, especially in that ballpark, profile's pretty good. And I think there could be 20 home run upside here with Fraley, not to mention double-digit stolen bases with a pretty decent batting average. I think among this range of players, to me, he is the upside guy, the potential 5-category upside guy. And I really like where he's going, especially because I think he's probably going to hit in a pretty good spot in that Cincinnati lineup.
Yeah, and we've seen flashes from him in the past. When he can get it all going, he definitely could be a nice pick here.
Yeah, but he can't hit lefties. Like, they're never going to play him against the lefty. He bats like 143 or 140 around there. That's going to be the only thing. It's probably a platoon bat, but there's no one really else around him.
No, I mean, the Reds don't have a lot of quality hitters at this point, so he'll get the chance.
Who sells off harder, the Reds or the A's?
The A's, no question.
Yeah, the Reds will win more games.
The player I was thinking of was AJ Pollock for the Mariners.
Yeah.
That they might platoon him and Jared Kelenic.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Kelenic,
I read that.
Yeah, Kelenic, a lefty batter, and Pollock, a righty batter.
I think they both play.
Well, they have Julio in center, and they have Teoscar in right.
Yep.
So, and DH is
Kelenic and Pollock, and I guess you're going Dylan Moore at some point.
And Eugenio Suarez is the DH right now, according to their official depth chart.
All right. I was looking at roster resource. They had him at third base. So if he DHs, that makes it really tough to fit them all in. You're right.
Yeah. And they also have Tommy La Stella that can also play third. He's on the roster.
Still around.
He's horrible too. He's horrible too.
Yeah.
So fewest wins right now on DraftKings. The Nationals and Athletics are tied at plus 280 for the most losses.
Oh my God. I would take the Athletics.
Yeah, I take the A's too. I think there's just nothing. And if anybody plays, like if Ramon Laureano looks good the first month, they're going to trade him. I just think they're playing for like 2032 or something.
I'm really debating putting money on this right now.
I mean, we have a whole rest of the show. You can figure it out.
By the way, don't look at the Nats lineup. The Nats lineup is bad.
Oh, it's pretty bad.
It's bad.
Next range here, we're talking about the 81 to 90 outfielders. This is an ADP according to the NFBC. This is 340 to right around 423. And Scott, back to you. Who in this range is catching your eye?
I'm going with a kind of a last year's bum pick here, and I think he's just the one stat off what he normally was, and that's Avisel Garcia. Outfielder 87, about ADP, pick 394. The one thing that Garcia did differently last year in Miami was just strike out more. I mean, his strikeout rate was 23% for 3 years in a row. Last year, it was 28.7%, so almost 29%. You look at everything else. I mean, hard contact was still there, 45%. The barrel rate was down. But you're looking at a guy that in 2021 was 29 home runs, 86 RBI, 8 stolen bases, too. I mean, it tosses in 5 or 6 stolen bases for you. That's big. Hit 260, 12% barrel rate. I like guys that are just, 1 year off. I don't like guys that, are 37 in this, but he's 31. He's hit the ball hard many different times this year. Barrel rate over 10%, 3 of the last 5 years. I just think Garcia can hit. I know there is a little bit of a crowd situation here in Miami, but it's not like it's with anybody good. I don't think that Jesus Sanchez, didn't prove much. I don't think he can hit. He definitely can't hit lefties. You got Brian De La Cruz, who I do like, but I think Garcia plays a bunch. I think he hits 5th and 6th somewhere in there. We're talking free picks here. ADP is 400. Is a guy that was really good in 2021. Give me a guy a year off a great year at this price, and I'll see what I can get.
I'm not mistaken. Didn't he also have a decent sized contract with the Marlins too?
4 years, $53 million.
Like they have to play him. They have to play him.
He got paid more than I thought.
He definitely, that was a contract year. He sold out. He's my guy too for all the reasons.
He's playing.
Yep.
Was there anything you wanted to add, Marty, with Garcia?
No, I mean, they have to play him. 98th percentile max exit velocity last year, and he came into camp completely out of shape, an extra 20 pounds heavy. He got that contract. He was chilling all summer, all winter. So I think this year he should be able to bounce back, and if not, you can just cut him.
You're the Tigers fan, right? Did he sleep with Prince Fielder's wife? Was that what it was?
That's the word on the
What?
street. That is
That's what the word was.
Yeah, that was the word on
What?
the street that that he hooked up with Prince Fielder's wife, and they got into a huge brawl in the dugout. Miggy was trying to break it up, and Fielder told Dombrowski, "You trade him. It's either me or him." And so they got rid of him. He went to Chicago. I want to say the White Sox.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
I've never heard of this.
I'm not
before.
making
I've
this
never
stuff up.
either.
No, you definitely
course.
no. That was that was a thing. Yep.
He was baby Miggy too. He had the same body, kind of looked like him when he
We
first
called
came
him
up.
Mini Miggy.
Yeah, Mini Miggy. There you go. And, and it blew up. He was going to be their next big thing, and then he hooked up with Prince's wife, and that was it.
He got
Wow.
What? This is crazy.
David, I didn't know this either.
I'm like literally don't even know how to go
And
on.
Prince
Prince
is a great
Fielder
dude, by
filed
the
for
way.
divorce after. Wow.
Yes, he did.
Oh, wait, so Avicio, I didn't even realize he was on the Tigers first.
Yeah, that's where he came
Yeah,
up.
That's right.
He dropped the ball in right field when the A's had a walk off on them, but then Verlander shut him out the next day, so it didn't matter. But
I know what I'll be Googling after the show's over. Wow.
Avisal
Scott,
Garcia, broken home. What are you gonna look up?
yeah, right.
Home
Scott,
record.
dropping knowledge bombs right now.
Trying to
Doc,
give you guys some new material here.
we got to call him the cheater now. We talk about him.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm glad I had a Tigers fan here that knew what I was talking about.
Oh yeah.
Wait, he's not a cheater though. He's a home wrecker.
Oh, right, yeah.
I call it boys being
A lot
boys,
of things.
but that's what it is.
Marty, you've been on this show for like over a year now, and you never once thought to bring this up.
I haven't been able to organically work it into a conversation yet, but luckily
Scott
it's
just dropped it in perfectly in a conversation. All right. Next player we'll talk about. We'll go to you. I don't even know how to go from here. Doc, the player you wanted to talk about here was Mark Canha, who I feel like is a solid player, never like too fancy in any category, kind of gives you some solid production with the New York Mets. Why do you want to draft him here?
Well, first of all, I feel like Mark Canha is very loyal to his wife after all that we just talked about.
Yeah.
He's in the second. He's in the second year of a $26.5 million contract he signed with the Mets. They're going to play him, especially if Starling Marte might not be ready for opening day after that core surgery. Scott, he spent his first 7 years in Oakland, and that seems like it held him back because the first year in the Mets, he had the lowest K rate that he's had, 17.9%. Going to be in a more stacked lineup, a guy that will probably hit between 13 to 17 home runs. He's had at least 60 RBIs and 70-plus runs the last 2 seasons. And the last 2 years, he's played the most games of his career, 141 and 140. So as long as he gets that kind of playing time, I think he's definitely going to smash that ADP, which is right now
I can tell you, Doc.
410.
Yeah, Mark 10 at 410, the 88th outfielder off the board. Min pick of 268. So someone really went and got him at
That's
one
not
draft. My player I'll talk about really quick, Andrew McCutchen, who 36 years of age, on the cusp of his 15th major league season. Remember back when he was with the Pirates, who he's now with again. A 5-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger, 1-time Gold Glover, and first MVP award for the Pirates since Barry Bonds. He actually had better stats last season than you might think. 17 home runs, 69 RBIs, and 8 stolen bases, while hitting just slightly under the league average, 237. He actually has a 90% sprint speed still. And I would not be shocked to say this in a perfect world next year. He's a 20 home run, 10 stolen base guy. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, especially with the fact that there's going to be easier chances for steals this year. 17 home runs last year for the Brewers. He's going to be able to be in a better lineup spot for the Pirates, who have nobody on the team this year. Brian Reynolds is their best hitter, and he is arguably their best hitter. O'Neal Cruz is still working his way there, but he's most likely to be traded the way things are trending these days. And also with Andrew McCutchen, K rate under 22%, a 92 percentile chase rate. So he's a really good eye at the plate. Played in 134 games last season, so he actually was healthier than you may think as well. I think he's a solid pick here, going right now as outfielder 89 at pick 413, right after Mark Canha. So I think he's a solid pick here.
David, do you remember when you drafted him last year in our home league and I ridiculed you about what a bad pick it was, and then I peer pressured you into dropping him a couple weeks later?
It wasn't a couple weeks later. I had him for like a month or two.
Okay, well, within
sounds
2
like
months.
sounds like quite the home league.
Yeah, it's
I just laughed out loud, said it was the worst pick of the draft. I screenshot every time he'd have like an 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts.
but he's a great points league player because he doesn't strike out that much, and he would get like in points leagues he would have like 1, 3, 5, like 2. Like he wouldn't get negatives for you. And he actually and then he got picked up, and he was actually pretty decent down the stretch too.
I peer pressured David into dropping him at his cold stretch, and then somebody picked him up as he got hot.
That is beautiful. Where are you guys on Dylan Carlson in this range?
I don't want any part of Dylan Carlson personally.
Talk about pedigree prospect. He was horrible last year.
The Cardinals have too many good hitters in the waiting.
He's right now fighting for even a starting spot. I feel like you have Tyler O'Neill. Right now, Jordan Walker, if he has a good spring training, I expect he'll start in the outfield and also with Lars Nootbaar. And
he hits nothing hard. It's wild. I mean, he was pretty good when he got called up. He's down to 27% hard hit rate last year. It's just I want to find something there. And I looked when we were talking this range. I couldn't find anything to get excited about with Carlson. And I agree with you guys. I think he's going to end up losing his job.
I think you're right. And Juan Yepez is going to be the DH, so it's not like he'll slide into the DH role either. Dylan Carlson's kind of fallen from grace a lot in terms of how hyped up he was a few years ago. LC, close this out really quick. You want to talk about to close out this range here, Adam Duvall, right? That's who you picked for this one?
Yeah. Straight late power grab. Duvall's going to be the starting center fielder for the Red Sox. Just shows you what sort of straits the Red Sox are in right now. But that doesn't change the fact that it's a really nice power park, one of the best in the league. And he has a good power swing. Now, he missed the end of the season with a wrist injury. So, it might not come back, but this is a late pick. This is an upside pick. This is a person who could end up getting 30 home runs. I have him at only about 500 plate appearances. I have him over 20 home runs. So at 22 home runs. So I think he's a very good value for where he's going right now. And you could do a lot worse, especially if you need a little bit of late power.
All right. And again, power is definitely something at a premium. So you got to make sure you get some power spots. Adam Duvall definitely could be one here. Was anybody else shocked? And this is something I now have known for a couple seasons, that how good he is in center field. Like I always thought he was just like a big guy that just hit for power. Then he actually is like a really good athlete and a really good center fielder. When I first heard that, I was like, not kidding talking about Adam Duvall. But he is really good defensively too. And that's going to get us bad into the lineup. Next range, Scott. We are now getting into the triple digit territory, going in picks outfielders 91 to 100. There are a lot of contenders here. Who did you pick?
So I'm going really boring here, and it's kind of a team dependent thing, but I think batting average is almost impossible to find late in drafts, especially, you get some power guys. We talked about a number of power guys. So I'm going Harold Ramirez here in Tampa Bay. Dude hit 300 last year, and he's hit 268, 276 his other 3 seasons. It was not like so weird. I know his BABIP was high, but he just hits for average. Doesn't strike out a lot. 16.5% strikeout rate last year. I just think late batting average guys are really hard to find. You get guys down here that hit 210, 215. In this era with batting average is tough. Someone that's going to hit, say he hits 275, 280, that really helps your team at this point. You look at his expected batting average on Baseball Savant, 94th percentile. So the expected numbers are good too. I think the sneaky part here with Ramirez is the Rays are not as deep as they have been in the past. Like usually it's like they have so many guys, they're going to platoon everybody, but you look at their bench right now and it's not very exciting. Luke Raley, Jonathan Aranda, Taylor Walls is kind of going to be all over the infield. And then whoever the backup catcher is, the fourth bench guy. Like there's not a lot of guys here that I'm really worried about them taking Ramirez out of the lineup for. You look at roster resource, has him hitting 5th right now. I don't know if that's holds, but he hits 5th or 6th. You're getting him at outfielder 95. ADP is what, 440. That's like the last couple rounds of the 15-teamer. I think he's a really nice guy to have on your bench. Play some weeks, you get somebody hurt, you have some bad matchups. I think Ramirez doesn't hurt you. It helps you a little bit, and it will play more than we think.
Yeah, and again, you can't go wrong here. Harold Ramirez, pretty much free. Yeah, going at 438. Do you have any shares of him before we get, and you can add on, Eric? Do you have any shares of him yet, Scott, in any of the drafts you've done?
I have not drafted yet. I don't draft till March. Sorry.
Ooh, I like it. Really.
I'm a grinder in the season. I need a break in the off season. I think TGFBI starts in like a week or so. That'll be my first draft I do.
I like it, man.
Wait, I have to bring this up in the comments.
See, I'm not making this stuff up, guys.
I had a friend of Dave Dabrowski at a game sitting behind home plate tell me that story. Yosel Garcia cost Tigers a World Series. He took out Miggy, breaking up fight, and Prince checked out for the season.
Yep. So when you look at those amazing teams and you wonder why, you can just look at Avisal Garcia. But now there was more to it, but yeah, it wasn't good.
Truman, thanks for telling us, adding to that too, because this is a whole scandal that I had no idea existed.
I'm waiting for the 30 for 30.
LC, let's go to you. Let's talk about the player that you want. And Denmar, did you want to add anything? Or I'm sorry, Eric, did you want to add anything to Harold Ramirez?
I was just gonna say he's moved around. Miami, Cleveland, Tampa Bay. He's on a 1-year deal now, so he might. And Scott mentioned with the opportunity he has, really try to earn a bigger contract, like Avisal Garcia did. Mm-hmm. And right now, roster resource has him hitting 5th against right-handed pitching, so he's going to be right in the heart of that lineup. All
right, Harold Ramirez, a good target here. LC, you like Leody Taveras here, which is kind of interesting because I feel like I've been hearing a lot more of Bubba Thompson hype than Leody Taveras hype. And they actually go very close to one another here. Outfielder 97 and outfielder 101. How can you like Taveras over Bubba Thompson?
I think Taveras is a better actual hitter than Bubba Thompson is. And I think that he's going to I think that the Rangers are going to want to try and see what they have more with Taveras. I think they know that Thompson is sort of just a speed first type of player who doesn't have a major league hitting skill. He's a Billy Hamilton type. Taveras has fantastic speed, but he also has a good minor league hitting track record. I think he can keep the good BABIP that he kept last season and outperform projections, which have him in the 230s. And I think if he does get that chance, he can push the plate appearances that are projected for him, which they're not projecting. They're not going wild with him, only about 500 plate appearances. But I think if he pushes that, he'll be looking at some more stolen bases. Interestingly, the roster resource has him hitting 9th. I started to try and look up what batting positions, what you can expect for stolen bases out of different batting positions. And Jeff Zimmerman wrote a really interesting article in January. And he said, the one thing he said is if you're looking for hidden stolen bases to move out of the last 2 spots in the batting order, out of 8th and 9th. So really hoping Taveras gets moved out of the end of the batting order because I want those stolen bases. So he has to hit to do that. But that's an interesting tidbit for your season, guys moving up in the batting order. Our hidden stolen base ads, according to a recent Jeff Zimmerman article, which I thought was interesting.
Okay. So you will be drafting him over Leody Taveras or over Bubba Thompson in a lot of leagues, but it sounds like his bat you think will play better. And the Texas Rangers, definitely they have a couple nice bats in that lineup, Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, who some people have picked to be the potential MVP of the American League. So they're going to need other players to step up, and Leody Taveras could be a nice option for you at this point in the draft. Marty Party, the guy that you want to talk about in this range, Mike Yastrzemski, who, to be honest with you, a few years ago looked like he was going to be one of the best bargains in terms of just kind of coming on the scene, was helping win people leagues, and then also just completely dropped off. Do you think he bounces back some way?
Former All-Star Mike Yastrzemski, thank you very much. But yeah, I mean, for where he's going, I really like it. I mean, he walks at a good clip. He barrels the ball consistently. Last year, he was really pressing. So we saw his batting average plummet to 212. His strikeout percentage went up. But he still had 17 home runs. He got you 5 stolen bases. And more importantly, next year, he's going to be batting every day, either first, second, or third in that lineup. So I like the ability of, the playing time's there. He's a decent player. I don't think there's tons of upside there, but if he gets you, 15 to 20 home runs, 5 to 10 stolen bases somewhere in there, and he needs to get that batting average up, or you're gonna have to drop him because 220 you just can't do it. Especially with me taking so many big boppers at the beginning who drive down my my batting average. But where he's going, you can hold on to him, see if he can kind of rejuvenate what he had a few years ago. If not, you cut bait.
Yeah, fair enough. And again, these prices are pretty much free at this point. So you're getting a potential bounce back of Mike Yastrzemski for just the low price of 438 ADP. I will close out this range with Tommy Pham, who I know is a big target of our buddy Torres of the Fantasy Baseball Beat. He really likes him a lot. And I think at the outfielder number 100 here, he's a 1 year, $6 million deal with the Mets that could be up to $8 million with incentives. Spent last year split between Cincinnati and Boston, hit 17 home runs, 63 RBIs, and a 686 OPS. He actually had 89 runs as well to go along with that. He's a career 259 hitter and a 787 OPS. He actually hits the ball harder than you may think, even at this point in his career. A 93 average mile per hour exit velocity, an 55th percentile max EV, 89th percentile hard hit percentages. He is somebody that I think with an injury has a path to everyday playing time for this team. And if he starts hitting consistently, he'll play every day. He also gave you 8 steals last season. So he is somebody that can also potentially steal double-digit bases in the right scenario. I'm not out on Tommy Pham. I think, again, the price factors in here, but you're getting somebody that's going to be playing for a good lineup, potentially. If there's an injury, he'd even start out as a DH to start the year. I like him for the price, and I think he could have a big impact for the Mets next season. Now, Scott, I want to go back to you really quick. Out of the ones we just said in that range, obviously you brought up your guy, but we also talked about, besides Harold Ramirez, we talked about Leody Taveras, we talked about Mike Yastrzemski, and we talked about Tommy Pham. Is there any of those guys you're going to be targeting?
My second guy here was Yastrzemski. I just like I like that he still hits the ball hard. I like that he's going to play a lot. I think that in this range, it'd be Yastrzemski or Ramirez for me. I just thought Ramirez kind of fits well late in the draft. You need some batting average, but like I said, it's team dependent. And if I needed some pop, I obviously am not drafting Ramirez because he's going to hit 8 home runs or something. But I think Yaz is interesting too. Although the guy that I'm going to have in the next range, I like on the same team.
Oh, well, that's a perfect transition then. All right, Scott, back to you. In the next range, which is going to be anywhere from outfielder 101 to outfielder 150. It's a big range. Who do you like?
So I got a guy I really like in this range, and it's in San Francisco. It's Lamont Wade Jr. There was a story that came out in The Athletic earlier this week that essentially he hurt his knee late in 2021. He was actually one of the last outs in the 2021 playoffs. His knee was hurt. He struck out against Scherzer, and there's a whole story about it. But he was hurt all last year. So I'm pretty much tossing out 2022. He was not good last year. There's no way to say that. But look, his ADP is 596. You can get him literally for free in any draft. Outfielder 126. But if you click back to 2021, he had 381 plate appearances, 18 home runs, 6 stolen bases. Really good numbers there. Hit 253. But you look a little deeper. You look at some of the metrics, some of the numbers. He was over 70th percentile in xWOBA, xSlug, xISO, and barrel rate. He was 80th percentile or higher in whiff rate and chase rate. This is a guy that was really good in 2021. He's probably going to platoon a little bit. The Giants do, move guys around, but he's on the right side of the platoon because he's a lefty hitter, so that's the good side there. But he's just. I really like the whole profile here. He's way down on this list because last year was a lost year. And when I look at guys down here, I'm like, why was last year lost year? Was he bad? What happened? He was hurt all last year. And I loved kind of finding a guy you can just toss out last year. You give me just 2021, he's an absolute win here. You give me another 100 plate appearances, which is very possible. He only had 381 that year. He becomes a giant win here. No pun intended on that one. That was bad. But I think the Giants want to play a lot too. Like they're a little thinner than they used to be too at this position because Brandon Belt's gone now. So I think there's plenty of room for him to run or him to play. And I think he's going to hit. He got a chance to hit up in the lineup. I don't know exactly what they'll do with Estrada and Yaz and up there. They obviously signed Haniger, but there was a lot of games in 2021 where Wade led off. He was leading off against righties. So I think he is a prime guy to get for free that could really pay off at this price.
Starting first baseman for them right now, hitting 8th according to Roster Resource. Do the Giants have the most lefty batters of any team in the big leagues? They have right now projected 5 lefties to start next year for them, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, Lamont Wade Jr. is he eligible at just first base, or does he have? I'm trying to look at his position eligibility.
Right now he is first base and outfield, which another little bonus there.
Yeah, multi-position eligibility. Going back to what he did in 2021, as Scott referenced, just played 109 games, had 18 home runs and 56 RBIs that year, 253 average. Last year just looks like a complete outlier. And you mentioned the knee being a problem. I to be honest, I had never actually looked at Lamont Wade's stats. He was never somebody I ever even considered drafting. And just looking into his numbers and everything that you're talking about, you definitely have my attention intrigued here with him. So I think Lamont Wade's definitely a really nice target here. Where did you say he was going in terms of ADP?
He's outfielder 126, ABC 80, ADP 596. Like he's essentially my 28th pick in every draft.
I like it. I like it.
Every draft that you haven't done yet.
Every draft that I haven't done yet. The ones that are coming up, yes. The 15 teamers, the 30 round 15 teamers. He'll be my 28th round pick, and I'm just gonna take it and see what happens. I really like the profile here.
All right. I'm gonna go to you next, Marty, because we have two outfielders on the same team, but not the same guy here. You have Tyrone Taylor as your pick, who flashed in the pan a little bit and then kind of came back down to earth towards the end of the season. Did give you some valuable weeks at some points last year. You think this is the real deal next season for him?
If real deal is batting somewhere around 240, maybe getting you 15 home runs, maybe around 6-7 stolen bases, yeah, that's the real deal. And I think that with him, just being somebody on your bench in a DC or someone you want to take the chance at, your last pick of the draft, just to see what happens, I think that's a good fit. He's slated to start for the Brewers. He'll probably be batting, at the bottom of the lineup, 7th, 8th, 9th, wherever they can fit him in there. But I think there is some upside. I love the park, and he's a young dude. Who knows? Something could happen.
It could. And to be honest with you, that's something that could happen might be Sal Frelick, who is my pick for this range. And I don't like picking too many rookies, but he's somebody that is going to play the outfield for the Brewers at some point next year. He's really, really good defensively. And just for those that haven't heard of Sal Frelick, I definitely got more exposure to him on the prospect show, the call up on Triple Play from our guy Vinny down on the farm. He's really big on him, and I started looking more into his profile. This is a guy who's 22 years of age, hit 331, 403, 480 with 11 home runs between 3 levels last year. But where he becomes really interesting, he struck out just 63 times in 562 plate appearances last year. He's very fast. He's also, again, very good defensively. I think he could play center field every day for the Brewers. And everybody that talks about him compares him to Stephen Kwan, just in terms of his contact rate. He's able to just make consistent contact of the ball. Maybe he's not going to hit 20 plus home runs, but he could give you anywhere from 10 to 15 home runs, hit over 300, get on base a ton, play good defense. And he just talks about that he's talking about his approach. He says he tries to stay in the zone as long as possible. Very even swing, doesn't try to get under it or on top of it. Just stays square the entire time, no matter what type of pitch is thrown at him. He's that type of guy that's very consistent. He's not going to be sexy, but if you need batting average, you need stolen base potential, you need a guy that's going to play every day. This is a big sleeper here. Sal Frelick, who I actually is not crazy if you want to throw some money on him for NL Rookie of the Year. It's a long shot. I think last time I checked, it was like plus 4,000 odds. But he's somebody that would not surprise me if he broke camp with the Brewers. If not, maybe worst case scenario, maybe it's like the first month or two after. He will play every day for them when he gets called up because he'll have that type of impact on the team. And he'll get you a lot of accumulation stats that you can't find too much in this range. So that's my guy for Sal Frelick here.
There's some sweet Oakleys in the Twitter profile picture too.
Does he really? I haven't looked at his Twitter profile.
He is pulling those off nicely.
Oh, that's even... See, you get the optics going too on Twitter, and you have me sold. Doc, your pick for the 101 to 150 range, you decided to talk about Connor Joe, who disappointed last year. Now with the Pittsburgh Pirates and a team that needs hitters to produce, do you think he could produce for them this season?
Connor Joe, Cotton Eye Joe. That's going to be his nickname. I mean, he's nothing sexy. He's 90th percentile in walk rate. And I like what Scott said about at this point, you're trying to find guys that are eligible, multiple positions, first base, outfield, put them in the corner infield. And I think he gets a everyday playing spot if Brian Reynolds gets traded, if G-Man Choi isn't ready. He had offseason elbow surgery, and it does seem like there are some bad feelings that the Pirates didn't let him play in the WBC. He actually had a decent first half last year, 262, 5 home runs, 72 runs plus RBIs and 6 stolen bases in 85 games, and actually had better stats in the first half away from Coors. So I'm kind of just banking on a trade or an injury for him to have more everyday at-bats.
All right. I mean, there's definitely a chance. Again, they need players to produce in that lineup. LC, close this out. The player in your range is Kyle Isabel, who I am a big fan of. I try to draft him in a lot of leagues. Good depth piece here for the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, the Royals are one of the outfields that I'm looking at. They there were three guys who were competing for 2 spots: Drew Waters, Kyle Isbell, and Nate Eaton. Well, Waters just went down with a strained oblique and is going to be out for at least 6 weeks, which puts that right up to opening day, right past opening day. So he's in my mind, that moves him down to the bottom of the triplet, and that moves Isbell up to the top. And I think that Isbell came up with a good hit first profile with speed in the minor league, speed, defense, and a good hitting profile. And I think that he's just had a short sample so far in the major leagues, and the pitching is made strikeout more than normal. If he could bring those strikeouts down more closer to what he was doing in the minor leagues, that hitting will start to lead to better batting average, lead to the stolen base you're looking for. And he does have a little bit of power, not a ton, but with full-time plate appearances, I could see him going 10 home runs and 15 stolen bases.
All right, I like it. Let's go to our last range here. That is anywhere after pick 150. For ADP reference, that is basically after 700. So you're only looking at these guys in 50 where you're doing draft and holds, DC type of formats here. So they're not somebody that you're going to be drafting in most 12-team leagues or any normal type of leagues. But Scott, lead us off. This is your lottery ticket. This pretty much somebody that maybe you're not expecting the world from, but you might just draft a little bit of just to have some exposure to them.
Yeah, I was torn between 2 rookies here, but I'm going to go with the guy. I kind of teased it earlier when I asked you guys about Dylan Carlson. I was hoping nobody's going to like him because I like Alec Burleson here in St. Louis, rookie outfielder. Outfielder 156. I mean, dude won the International League batting title last year. He hit 331. I like young guys who have a little bit of pop and don't strike out a lot. When they come up, like he's a 14% strikeout rate last year, has dropped at each of his 4 levels. So like seems like he's getting better in the minors. Obviously, we're talking about outfielder 156, so who knows? But I don't think Dylan Carlson's going to be good. He just might be bad. Juan Yepez seems very blah to me. I understand that Jordan Walker's here and obviously a stud, but I think Burleson's getting forgotten just because Walker's so damn good and everybody loves him. But he had a quick call-up last year. He only had 53 plate appearances, didn't do much with it, but had a 48% hard hit rate. So he did hit the ball when he's up there. Granted, super small sample size. But I just like everything I look at with Burleson. You read stuff about him. It sounds like they like him there too. It's just going to be a matter of finding playing time. So it might not be there for a while. But if you Paz is blah and Carlson's not good, I think Burleson could come pretty quick. In a DC, something like that, where you're kind of waiting. You can afford to wait with a huge bench. I really like the profile here with Burleson. So that's going to be my guy.
And you never know. Injuries always happen. We talk about it with starting pitchers, and you draft the 6th
Tyler,
or 7th.
Tyler O'Neill will never get hurt.
Never.
Yeah. He's the National League.
He's doing yoga and slimmed down now, so he can't get hurt. We're good.
Did he? I just saw a picture of him recently. Looked like he got even bigger. Maybe that was from like a year.
That dude is a beast.
I read a whole thing about how he was doing more like flexibility training and less weight training, and apparently not.
Unless that picture is dated, it's like a year or 2 old. He's like a freaking tank.
He's a beast. There's no doubt. But I thought he'd changed that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here.
I like it. And yeah, if somebody gets hurt, then that's all you need for him to get ample playing time. This pick wasn't made, but Vinny is talking about Colton Cowser of the Baltimore Orioles as his pick in this range, which I think is not a bad call too, because the Orioles, he's one of their top prospects right now, and
I'm ready to see him.
Easily could come up there and produce for them. I have to look what his ADP is. It's definitely like right down in this range. Really quick, I'm going to save my guy, and then I also want to pose a question to you guys. I picked Nick Solak. He actually is with the Cincinnati Reds, which I didn't know until a few weeks ago. Yeah, I think he was just recently signed. For his career, a 252 hitter. In his last few minor league seasons, he's consistently posted an OPS of 860 or higher over his last 3 minor league seasons. Cincinnati Reds, Great American Small Park, get some playing time. They already talked about him playing over Nick Senzel, because Nick Senzel can't even stay. If you're talking about someone getting hurt, that's you're looking in the dictionary. That's who's going to be there. I think he might be worth a dart throw, but if I'm redoing my pick, Jason Hayward's kind of intriguing, who goes right after him. He actually is trying to break camp with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Freddie Freeman was advocating for him and said he's worked on some swing changes. I think it's something about shortening his swing to get the ball or bat through the zone a little bit quicker. And the Dodgers need some players to step up. The fact that Freddie Freeman was talking about changes he was making, the Dodgers working strange magic on things, is Jason Hayward at outfielder 165, pick 733. Is he going to make any of your guys' teams?
No.
I'll take a chance.
He hits one home run in spring training. Everybody's freaking out. It's and that wasn't even spring training. It's like
if
home run. It was like
if the Dodgers fix him after the Cubs contract, I'm going to be ticked off. That's what I'll say.
That's fair.
You mentioned the Reds outfield. I like Will Benson a lot in this range too. I think that he's another rookie that you talk about Great American Small Park. He cut his strikeout percentage a ton last year. I think he's a really interesting guy too.
Yeah, Will Benson, believe goes.
Outfielder 151.
Yep. So yeah, another great target. I think a lot of people are to be drafting a lot of Reds, just hoping that they get the Brandon Drury type of effect. You come to Cincinnati, you have your career year, and you get the draft value from these guys.
And you get rewarded by being traded.
That's right. And then sucking, and then Art talks about drafting you next season. All right, let's go back to you. There it is. I love the delayed reactions.
So I'm going to talk about Michael A. Taylor. When all are healthy in Minnesota, Michael A. Taylor is a bench bat. I'll tell you the ways I see him getting in. He's going to platoon versus lefties. If Gallo or Kepler play poorly, his defense could get him on the field, and also to give Buxton rest and also for Buxton injuries. And that's pretty much why they got him. Now, when he went to Kansas City, his home runs per fly ball dropped a lot from his Washington days, but he's also a career 324 BABIP. So I'm not going to say, oh, wow, his power is going to jump up because he's out of Kansas City, but you can rely on about a league average batting average and decent pop, not plus pop, but decent pop. It's not empty bats totally. And given the fact that he could end up with over 400 plate appearance in 15, I think it's a pretty good late draft pick.
Yeah, and the fact that he's so good defensively, he'll get in the lineup. Twins have Joey Gallo out there, far from a guarantee. Byron Buxton, far from a guarantee. Alex Kirilloff, who's going to shift over to first base now, is one less outfielder in the mix. There's definitely chances Michael A. Taylor plays a lot more than you think. So I think that's a good call with him there, LC. Doc, your last pick here, Joey Weimer. Talk to us about why.
I'm going to give our guys that the fantasy baseball beat a shout out when they had Kurt Hogg on, and always good to listen to beat writers. They give you the inside. Craig Mish from the Marlins had mentioned if ECL Garcia showed up fat. I now know more about him after tonight, the hat trick of mentioning him. But I looked at his double and AAA in 2022, 21 homers, 31 stolen bases in 127 games. And when you look at that Brewers outfield situation, Christian Yelich hasn't been healthy for most of his time since his MVP season. Jesse Winker had neck surgery. And Kurt had mentioned that they kind of like Tyrone Taylor being that fourth outfielder, that if they really felt that he was an everyday player, that they wouldn't have, or he would have earned a spot by now. So just kind of a dart throw, somebody I took in our triple players ball, but maybe somebody that makes an impact later in the season.
Damn, he was 20. He was 21-31 last year. Wow.
Was he really?
I like it. Yeah, 21 home runs, 31 steals.
And 127 games.
Yeah, wow. Nice call.
Nice target there, Doc.
Thank you.
Marty, Zach Veen, I love your pick here. He was under consideration for me, but I already had two rookies. So I didn't want to do a third.
It's a dart throw, man. There's no bigger dart throw than Zach Veen. He probably won't come up, but it is the Rockies. They don't ever know what they're doing. He's been slated to come up in 2024, but if you could see an injury, Charlie Blackmon's out there now in the outfield. Maybe he can play some DH, gets called up like mid-season. Chris Bryant's been getting hurt a lot. Is it Daza? Or
Jonathan Daza.
Yeah, I mean, who are we talking about? So it's a matter of time before Veen comes up. hopefully he struggled a lot last year, but the year before that he looked really good. So as a young player, he's earning his licks down there, and we could see him midseason.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the better chance he's probably 2024, but you can take him where he's going right now. At pick 715 is one of the last picks in your best ball drafts, or I'm sorry, in your DC drafts. And if he gets called up and produces,
maybe like an August call up.
Yeah.
He just last month and a half going against everyone's 4th, 5th, 6th starters in Colorado. Could be worse.
Definitely give you steals too, which
55 steals last year.
Yeah.
So it'll definitely help you on the stolen base front if he does get the call there. But that will do it. We talked about, goodness gracious, over 20 players tonight. So there's a lot of different players you can kind of think in your mind when you're doing these drafts. This is a deeper range of outfield again. So when you're getting in that point in your draft, if you slept on the position and you need some later round guys, or you're just looking to stack your depth, there were a lot of good players talked about in this range tonight to consider. But on that note, Scott, thank you so much for joining the show, hanging with us tonight. It's always fun having you. Please plug all the great work you do, where people can find you, and all of the stuff you got going on.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I love your guys' show. You guys seem to have more fun than anybody that does this, so that's really important. And like, people get so serious about the stuff, and we should have fun. So I really love your guys' show. So that's why I said yes to come on. So I appreciate you inviting me. It was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at Scott Jenstad. Jenstad's Jenstad. Luckily, I will not be talking about Jimmy Garoppolo overthrows, hopefully never again, so you don't have to worry about that on there, because I won't care anymore. But other than that, we'll be talking a lot of baseball here coming up the next few months. I'm in then Sunday nights, Monday morning, people on the East Coast, I do the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball podcast with Jeff Erickson. We'll do a lot of draft talk coming up the next couple of months. We're doing late starters on Sunday night. We're talking about starters after pick 250. We'll kind of break down every range of the draft. We'll do all kinds of category targets. Then in March we'll do our fade episode. We'll do a My Guys episode, all our targets. So a lot of hopefully valuable drafts up there, kind of leading into a lot of the big drafts in late March.
Scott works so incredibly hard. He is incredibly knowledgeable, and I'm sure everybody knows who Scott Jenstad is that's watching this show, because, again, doing all the amazing things he does with RotoWire. But please, you guys got to make sure you guys check out the RotoWire pod. You guys got to make sure you follow Scott on Twitter. He does so much great work, and he's honestly one of our favorite people to have on the show. I'm pissed at myself that it took us this long to have you back on, and I would definitely can't wait as long next time. Because you're one of our favorite people, and we love all the work that you do. So thank you again for hanging with us.
It's nice of you to say. I have a good time with you guys, so it's fun. It's nice of you to say that.
Of course, and of course for everybody else here, Elsie, Doc, Marty Party, you guys already know anything you guys want to. Is there anything you want to plug or anything you guys want to say before we log off for the night?
Players Ball, League 4. Get in while you can, baby. It's getting hot.
That's right.
We filled up the third league. Now it's the 4th. It's that's 60 players, right? We're almost there.
Yeah, we'll get 60 players this year. League 4 now has 5 people in. 5 joined today, so 10 more spots open. And then League 4 is going to be it. We're going to cut it at 60 this year. So if you want to get in, get one of those last 10 spots. And I believe there was one thing else I was going to promote. Doc, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No. Well, we're going to make like a bread truck and haul these buns, right, David?
There you go. And you said it. I didn't have to say it. On that note, for Scott, for LC, for Doc, for Marty Party, I'm D. Mendy. Doc already said it. We are going to leave you with a little bit of a promo from our partner, Underdog Fantasy. If you guys want to do some best ball drafting, check out this video from our guys at Underdog. See if it tickles your fancy. Use code TRIPLE, and they'll double your first deposit match up to $100. Check it out.